Eugene, I need to ask you a question.
Sounds serious. What is it? Go ahead.
Would you rather train for and run a road mile, like hard out, full noise road mile, or run 100 miles?
Oh, that is, I'm torn. Give me more information.
What if you could do both?
Have you been at the hand sanitizer again, Matt, in the hospital?
Not since New Year's, but besides, I'm talking about the Spectacle. It's first of its kind running festival taking place in Nelson between Friday the 13th and Sunday the 15th of December 2024. Nelson, it's the South Island's hat. It's delicious. It's such a beautiful place, and it has some of the best trail running in the hemisphere, and it's just, generally beautiful.
It is stunning. Whakatū.
The Spectacle is a spectacle. It's got both road and trail events and a festival vibe from 10k to 100 mile on the trails, and a bunch of road events from community miles, 5ks to an elite road mile that the organisers are going to be bringing people who we usually watch on our screens to the streets.
Thespectacle.co.nz for details and get training.
And they're off. Here we go.
Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoor store in the known universe. Whether you're out heading out on climbing, paddling, tramping, or running adventures, look no further than Further Faster for all your gear and expertise needs over the summer or winter, or indeed whatever season you are partial to. Head over to 57A Buchan Street, Sydenham, Otutahi, Christchurch, or hit them up at furtherfaster.co.nz.
It goes something like further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to further, faster now.
Oh, further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious.
Go to further, faster now.
Dirt Church Radio.
Episode 281 of Dirt Church Radio. I'm Matt Raymond.
And I am Eugene Bingham. Tēnā koutou katoa. No, mate, hoki mate. We made it.
We did. Bit of a different locale this morning.
Oh, yeah, that's just because of the awkwardness of the last time we did a car park.
Should we talk about it?
I don't think we ever should. One day we will.
Maybe
in our memoir.
So we are coming to you from the back seat of Eugene's car, and
it's a lovely day.
It's a lovely day at the Murray Jones Reserve. I tell you what, sun's
shining.
Last time we tried to do it, we met at the trailhead, which is.
Are you going there?
No, I'm not. Suffice to say, it got awkward. It just got awkward, and we had to hide in the car essentially. But
anyway, we were trapped. Look, how are you doing, Matt Raymond?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
Trucking along. It's I feel, I talked about on the aid station last week, that sort of tasting fitness, and
that's a lovely phrase.
Just trucking along and feeling quite inspired, actually. Motivated is good, and inspired is good. And I feel quite inspired after our conversation with our guest this week. But look, how are you?
I'm good. Haven't got a new injury this week, so that's good.
Good. The eye is better?
The eye is almost 100% healed. Don't need a patch anymore.
That's great.
Much to the disappointment of the moko. And knee is getting better. Heel's still a mess. Anyway.
You managed to return the parrot to the pet store?
Yeah, I got a money back refund.
Good.
Yeah, it's good. Emma Timmis. She's going to have smashed up legs. I bet that.
Yes. She. Although we were just looking at the live feed as we were recording, and she looks pretty fresh.
Her running form is spectacular after 7 days of running on a treadmill in Otutahi, Christchurch, raising funds for Speed Freaks. At the time of recording, we've done this a little bit bad. She isn't quite finished, but she was inching very much closer to the world record of 833.056 kilometres. She's going to do it. I'm sure she is. Yeah. But amazing achievement. Amazing. Quite incredible. And raising money, as we said, for Speed Freaks. So it's going to be good. Yeah. Hey, look, the other thing we wanted to update you on is Tina Buck, who got in touch with us a few years ago seeking some recreational trail runners for studies she was doing on nutrition for her masters at Massey. The results are in.
Take us through it.
All right. Well, so she was studying RED-S and LEA, low energy availability. What does RED-S stand for again?
Relative Energy Deficiency Syndrome?
That's it. There we go. So Tina says, in our study, 31% of females and 23% of males met the classification for LEA, low energy availability risk. Common symptoms of LEA include, but are not limited to, gut discomfort, frequent injuries, fatigue, low mood, motivation for training, poor performance and recovery, menstrual cycle changes for females, and lowered sex drive for males. Tina says, our results showed that females in the LEA risk group were more likely to have experienced periods of absence from training due to injury in the past year and were more likely to suffer from abdominal bloating and stomach cramps than females with low LEA risk. Females with LEA risk were also more likely to experience menstrual dysfunction compared to those in the low LEA risk group. In males, those with low LEA risk experienced lower sex drive and were more likely to have suffered from abdominal bloating compared to males in the low LEA risk category. The scores from male participants with LEA risk also indicated issues with fatigue, recovery and energy levels. We do not find any evidence that female or male participants with low LEA risk had lower nutrition knowledge than those with low LEA risk. So it's such an important topic, isn't it? And in fact, we talk about it with Ant, about getting your nutrition right. And of course, this is not just your race nutrition, but your day-to-day nutrition as well.
Yeah, it is an important subject, and it's one that you could dive down a rabbit hole around and spend. And it's not weighted, and it's weighted also. It's a topic for many people that they find uncomfortable, but this is something that is important, and it's that giving yourself that space to make some changes to your nutrition if you need that, while also being a bit easier on yourself. So.
Yeah. So we'll put the link to Tina's research in our show notes. And if you have a look, she's also got some links for advice and, what to do. And, if you are experiencing some of those symptoms, perhaps they might be indicative of LEA or RED-S and you need to make some changes. So you can have a look and maybe get some advice to make yourself feel better, train better, be healthier, all those things.
Hey, look, we've got a giveaway.
Yay!
Long time since we've had one of them. We're giving away an entry to the Spectacle, which is a new running festival taking place in Whakatu, Nelson, from Friday, December 13th to Sunday, December 15th. There's a variety. This is interesting, There's a variety of distances and terrains, from 10 kilometres to 100 miles on the trails to relays and a mile on the roads. And if you sign up as a subscriber to the DCR aid station, you'll be in the draw for an entry and you'll have 2 chances if you're a paid subscriber. We'll announce the winner on June 26th, which is pretty soon. If you want to know more, you can check out www.thespectacle.co.nz.
That 100-mile is no joke.
It's gross. 8,900 metres of vert.
That is going to kick you. But, it's a great challenge. Those trails in Nelson are spectacular.
Yes,
they
absolutely. Absolutely, they are. Long before I was into running, I was quite a keen mountain biker, and everyone who went to Nelson just said, I had a friend who spent some time there, and he went for a what was an equivalent ride, and we were living in Rotorua at the time, and he said it was one of the most frightening things that he'd ever done in his life.
Wow!
Just in terms of the level of challenge in the terrain. So 8,900 metres of vert over 100
Yeah, or maybe
miles,
just throw yourself into the elite mile.
Yes, just the road mile.
just do the elite road mile.
Well, it would be over sooner.
That's true, but your lungs will not thank you for it. Having run a mile on the track and then spent 3 days coughing my lungs up, I can tell you that is no fun either. Anyway, right, this week's guest.
And KT, Anthony Kerr-Taylor, 349 kilometres in 52 hours at King's Backyard in Whangarei for a New Zealand-based backyard record. And this is just 4 years after going for his first run. Mate. He got an 8th at Tarawera 100 mile this year too. How has he done it?
Yeah.
How has he done it? Look, we dive deep into this. This was a really inspiration. I felt personally quite inspired after talking to Ant, and he's a good rooster.
Yeah, good rooster. Good rooster. Lots of really good reminders of what it does take. And I won't give too much away, but it's just worth a listen to. You'll come away feeling inspired and actually having learned something. No matter, and I'm talking as someone who's run their whole life, and I'm quite old. So I've run a lot longer a lot longer than that, but I still learnt a hell of a lot from him.
Well, I mean, we've been podcasting longer than he's been running.
That's right. That's right. 50% longer.
Oh dear. Speaking of inspirational,
and I'm also much older than that. Anyway, yeah, do this. Greatest run ever.
Greatest run ever.
Greatest run ever, which is the part of the show where we ask you to write into us and tell us your greatest run ever. It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. It might just be a run around the Kepler. Something that's sung to you for some reason. Send it in to us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. And this is from Bogdan State of Wellington. It's 1 a.m. and I couldn't sleep. 3 alarms were set on my phone, the earliest at 3:45 a.m. I was in a small, stuffy room in my hostel in Te Anau. I needed to be up that early to have a shot at running the Kepler on the last day of my trip down south. I only had a very short window of opportunity between two cold fronts coming in for a few hours. The weather on the top would be runnable. Outside those few hours, the first blizzards of the season. If I can't sleep, I might as well get a move on. But why was I even doing this to myself? Why get out into the cold night and do something that, to all intents and purposes, appeared unhinged? Wasn't it going to be dangerous? Besides, could I even do this at all? I just finished running the Milford track 33 hours before. I had plenty of excuses to take it easy. This was not the official program for my running trip, just a small note in my calendar, Kepler track, set for today. That and the power of public, half-hearted commitment and an enthusiastic response from my running mates. Deep down, I knew I could pull this off. I'd spent the previous year voraciously going through DCR back catalogues while building up my weekly distance. And if nothing else, that's going to breed mental resilience, isn't it?
That's true. It's going to be tough.
I learned to love vert and mud through the misery is the point ethos of Big Sunday runs, a running group made for the Wellington Hills. Even though my legs were tired, they still felt up to the task. Crazy to think that I could do it still. And I guess that's the point, isn't it? Sometimes you've just got to take on the unhinged or get a move into the cold night, but not before you pack a PLB, 3 torches and a spare set of batteries. Got out at 1 a.m. and made my way to the control gates, a full moon lighting my path on the lakeside. I could always go back to the gates, I told myself, but I did not. I turned left towards Rainbow Reach. If I was going to run in the dark, might as well go through the bush first. Not much to see there in the daylight. Besides, it felt like a wise choice to stick to the lower altitudes at night, and there might be kiwi along the way. The nighttime bush run was magical indeed. I got to Motoro around 3:30 a.m. and started hearing kiwi calls soon after. The bush felt interminable, longer than my first set of torch batteries could accommodate. Thank goodness for those spare ones. The trail got gnarlier as I approached Irisburn. I was certainly not going to be breaking any records, and then disaster struck, a big slip. I went into ankle-deep mud 2 hours before daybreak when my torch gave out on me again. One of the spare torches turned out to be out of juice, and so I started a mad dash to the bottom of my backpack in the dark for my one remaining hope, the barely adequate torch I'd gotten when I started running with Worm on the Wellington Hills a year prior. Luckily, this torch worked, and I was back to running at an awkward shuffle pace under the underpowered beam. I finally reached Irisburn around 6:30 a.m. and took a break in the common room, eating a mixture of olives and Oreos, and same bag, different bag, and the one waffle I had left over from Tarawera. Getting a change of socks felt like the biggest luxury given my soaked feet. Trampers were already leaving ahead of me by the time daybreak drew nearer. My legs were already tired. I'd already run longer the prior week than I'd ever had in my life so far, so I was not looking forward to the next climb. But at this point, there was nowhere to go but forward, so might as well get on with it. The climb to Hanging Valley started out painfully. I thought I would probably tramp my way up. The first steep bits gave way to slightly flatter switchbacks, and I started running a few metres at a time. Then I came across the first trampers, and I felt obligated to run longer. After all, I was not the one carrying a huge pack. Heart rate up, Oreos in the bloodstream, feet go faster, beast mode engaged for this middle-aged non-athlete. Dopamine kicking in, out of the bushline, magical views to snow-dusted peaks. The last pair of trampers ahead, a couple of American women, were belting out My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. I seized the moment, well, my brain on dopamine does, and join in. My singing is atrocious, but that moment is too good. I did apologise for the mild fright I gave them and my lack of musical skills, and even served as an impromptu photographer to help them capture the moment. Finally, on the tops, there's a fresh layer of snow. No footprints ahead of me except tiny ones shaped like tree drops. Snow-dusted stairs going up. There sure is a lot of climbing. Up in the sky, something that looks like a hawk. Actually, it's a Kia landing nonchalantly next to me. It likely was the author of the claw prints I'd seen before. I stopped to take pictures. The views are extraordinary, even on my barely functioning soft focus by now phone camera lens. After hanging valley shelter, the weather turns, the wind starts gusting, and there are the first flurries. The clag starts rolling in, as do the trampers. Some say hello back, others are too busy fighting the horizontal sleet to say anything. A long way to Luxmore, my glass is free, so I have to run without. I eventually make it to the hut for a second break. The rest of the Oreos are gone. After Luxmore, a slow descent down to the lake, a final run back to the gates, where Carly Webber, the fairy godmother of Te Anau, takes pity on me and gives me a ride back to town. Was she just hanging out at the control case?
Yeah. With Oreos.
With Oreos. Blistered soles, full cup, longest run ever, best run ever. P.S. Thanks to Lee Webber for lending me his torch, and to Anna Frampton, whose encouragement, teasing, actually got me to run this mission.
Oh, you had a little sneak preview of the greatest run ever this week, and you said it's a ripper, and you were absolutely right. Bogdan, you nailed it. That was stunning. I loved it. I am going to try stuffing olives into Oreos. Is that what he meant?
Not sure.
Not sure. Also, e mihi ana ki te Worm, Rawa ko te Big Sunday Run Group.
Yeah.
Making featuring in Greatest Run Ever. Good to see. So I have a bit of an announcement.
Okay.
Greatest Run Ever is running a bit low.
Is it?
It is. You need to send us your Greatest Run Ever. If you've ever said to us, I'm going to send you a Greatest Run Ever, now is the time, people. Send it to us.
That barrel's been pretty full for a long time.
It has been. And I took my eye off for a little bit and then went, oh, hang on, we're getting a bit low. So, send us your Greatest Run Ever. Do what Bogdan did. Write it up. Send it in to us. Maybe have a read of his one on the website. Get a bit of inspiration. Have a read of all the others. They're all there on the website. Send them into us, dirtchurchradio@gmail.com, and share them with your running buddies. Right.
And KT, and look, before we jump into the chat, Ant got in touch and asked us to read something for him, which I think is quite sweet. Would it also be possible to voice in a little shout out to my wife in the intro? I feel like I never brought up her influence in all this during the recording. So he writes, to my beautiful wife, Courtney, you are the glue that holds us all together. You and AJ are the driving force behind all this. You make me strive to be a better person. You allow this to be possible.
Aww.
This whole chat rules, and this whole chat is fresh because he's fresh and we're old and jaded, and it helped me feel like a bit of a better person, actually. So, this chat rules.
Enjoy.
We should probably crack into it. I mean, Anthony Kerr-Taylor, welcome to Dirt Church Radio. There certainly is a lot to talk about. First off, how are you feeling after Kings?
Yeah, really good actually. Surprisingly good. There was quite a few niggles throughout the event, that sort of popped up, but post-event, I was back running the next night at our local run club, so that was couldn't miss that. And then I've really just enjoyed the last week not having to run, and I'm just a Tuesday night run club runner for the next couple of weeks, I reckon. Just take it nice and easy, eh?
How was the body? A massive amount of kilometers, and then going for a trot. What was your run club distance?
I think by the end of it was close to about 9 kilometers. Nice flat trails, river trail through the Helensville community, but it was actually feeling really good, which is kind of weird to think after 350 kilometers over the weekend. But yeah, I guess it's just sometimes they say motion is the potion, and definitely felt pretty good on that night. So I just went for it.
King's Backyard Ultramarathon, obviously, first time that it's been run up in Whangarei. Everyone's friends, Chris and Helen, putting that on his and hers events, and a massive turnout, and for based in New Zealand, a record in terms of the amount of laps. But let's take it back to the very beginning. What was your first engagement with sport?
I've played every sport under the sun growing up. I started playing rugby since I was 6 or 7. Played rugby all my life up until I was about 23. And then, growing up, small town Waimalku, going to Kaipara College up in Helensville, small rural community high school. You pretty much play every sport, and if you're any good, you make your way into the first 15, the first 11 cricket team, the first 11 hockey team, when you're fifth, sixth, seventh form. So, I mean, yeah, sport's always been a massive, I guess, backbone of my life. I've always loved playing sport, just being physically active. Grew up, rural Waimalku, a small family farm that I was always outside, doing everything from chopping firewood, moving hay, fixing fences, all that kind of stuff. So always been super physically active, I guess. Yeah, in those later years of your mid-20s to early 30s, probably not so much. Yeah, that would be, I guess, my background in sport, and that has always been super physically active.
It's funny, those little schools, the first 15, first 11, what's hockey?
I don't even know how many was on the hockey
First
field.
11.
I literally played in seventh form, and
it's probably all the same people. There's been one or two outliers. You need a couple more for the first 15, but the first 11, there's that pool is quite small, eh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you played all those sports, you were active, you were, and for those who don't know, Waimalku, Helensville, a small community within the Auckland region, but sort of on the northwest, more northwest side of things. What was your first engagement with running?
I mean, I guess obviously your traditional cross country and primary school and that, running, around the local parks and that. But I mean, literally running was your cliche COVID lockdown. I need to get out of the house. I was working full time, as an essential worker during that first COVID lockdown. My wife was lucky enough to be working from home. We had a tiny little rental in Riverhead there that, her office took over our entire living room. So working shift work and long, 12, 15-hour days at work, working 6 days a week. I think my only day off was a Monday or a Tuesday or something like that. So it pretty much became I need to get out of the house because I can't do anything. I'd love to just be sitting and watching TV all day, but my wife's right there, on Zoom calls and all that. So yeah, it's crazy. I honestly, even to this day, I don't know the reason what came over me to be oh, I'm going to go out for a run in the forest. Something just happened, and I literally put on the only pair of shoes that I had were just normal street shoes, straight out the door. Lucky enough to be 200 meters from the forest, so it was all within the lockdown rules of staying local and that, and right onto that little Gucci up trail, and then up along the ridgeline up to Blake Road. It was I think it was a 4-kilometer run. It took, close to 40 minutes, but for whatever reason, I just got out and went for it. I don't know why, but yeah, from there, that was literally my first introduction into running. I hadn't, I said, I was always physically fit, growing up and all that kind of stuff, but I never actually had done any form of running at all, apart from rugby training and all that stuff. So that one first run was just something that was 4.5 years ago. And then it's just ever since then, at the time, I remember it sucked and I hated it, but I was I also love it, so there was just something in that just clicked with me. And I was just literally hooked straight away for some reason. And I guess 4.5 years later, here we are.
I mean, I know exactly where you were. I remember, you were on Gumdiggers Lane there, not a couple of 100 meters from where I'm talking to you now. And I remember I'd see you in your lounge. I'd be running, I was working shifts too as essential worker, and I'd be running past your house, and you kind of just be sitting there like looking at me. Because I remember the beard, and I was like, what's that dude up to? And then I'd see you out. I saw you out on the trail. I always remember you had like a New Zealand Warriors hat on, and the beard. Yeah, still got it. And I remember just going, oh, he's got the bug. It was so, because that trail, again, sorry to say, for those who don't know, that trail up into Riverhead, for years and years, it was very, very comparatively lightly used, and I'd go running there in the week, and it was great, had the place to myself. And then lockdown happened, and suddenly every man and their grandmother is a hiker / trail runner.
Yeah, for sure, right. Yeah.
Lucky it wasn't a super spreader event up that trail, there were so many people up there.
I mean, I always look back on the whole COVID thing like fondly, because it's literally introduced me into running. And, again, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but yeah, it's like I can actually take a positive out of it, and it's like changed my life incredibly in the last 4 and a bit years. So yeah, it's pretty funny how all that kind of stuff works out. Like, I mean, me and my wife, we'd gone for like hikes up through the forest and that like a few times, but I was never like, when we were doing that, I was like, yeah, this sucks. But I was like, never like, oh, I want to go like try run it. So yeah, I was definitely a home dweller, and yeah, I used to, probably laugh at all these idiots out there running on the trails. And, when the Riverhead was based at the primary school there, I used to run right past our house, and I'd always just be like, look at these guys, like, what idiots, wasting their weekend away running. And now it's like, yeah, I'm probably that idiot to a lot of people around.
You are that idiot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Wow. So would you be out there shaking your fist at them or what?
No, more just quietly mock them from the comfort of my little home, my couch and that. Probably slightly hungover and reeking of bacon and eggs for breakfast or something like that. But yeah, it's always pretty funny.
Yeah,
when I look back on that.
You can bet that the majority were envious of you as they ran past as well.
Yeah.
I wish I was sitting in there reeking of bacon and eggs.
Yeah, probably mostly.
Especially having to do that sprint up that hill towards the school at the finish. That was just killer. It was, who's the race director of that race? They've got a lot to answer for. Anyway. So you're kind of not sure what it was that made you get out on the trails, but you pretty quickly had the bug.
Yeah.
Were you running on your own, or were you running with others, or how did you kind of learn?
Yeah,
the basics.
Yeah, I mean, I literally ran. I only started running with people probably like a year ago, so I was always somebody that was always like, nah, like I don't need people to run with. I know what I'm doing. Like, I don't want other people to like, either slow me down or force me into a pace that I wasn't comfortable with. So I was always, just running by myself. And I think, like it wasn't until, probably last year where I started running with other people, and I truly found like there's so much more than the running, right? It's all about the connection and things like that. So yeah, it's pretty funny. When I first started out, I was literally just hammering the trails by myself, and just like pretty much just figuring out as I went. Yeah.
That's a really sensible way to get into it, thinking of it. Because if you had jumped in with someone who perhaps was, faster than you at the time or whatever, or even slower, it might have put you off. But you found your own groove. It's really sensible.
I think too, probably like I just didn't know any better, right? Like I wasn't fully immersed in the running community and all that just quite then. Like it wasn't until probably, so I think I started running, that would have been like late April, whatever year it was. And then I remember I just very quickly got into running and got hooked. And I thought, oh, what's the hardest thing I could ever do? And it was sign up for the Auckland Marathon. So I signed up for the Auckland Marathon that year, which I guess was like end of October. So I did like this big training plan for that, did the Auckland Marathon, and then from there it was like, okay, what's next? And then this thing called Tarawera like come across my radar, and then it was like I remember reading the caption on the website. It was like, so you run a marathon and you're looking for your next challenge, and I'm like, yep, tick, that's me. And then so I like signed up for TUM 50, and then like it literally wasn't until like I ran that at that event in February where I was kind of like, oh, there's something else more to running than just like the running, right? It's all about, not necessarily the events, but it's like the community and meeting new people and just like, yeah, fully immersing yourself in that sort of environment and then utilizing other people with it. So yeah, it took me a long time of just running by myself, which was probably no stroke of genius. It was just the way it was. Like before I finally kind of started running with a couple of friends and other people and things like that.
Wow. Well, just quickly, I can imagine a couple of race marketing teams from your answer just then going, yes, it works.
Yeah.
But just quickly, you mentioned you were working long hours and long days. So what's your job?
Well, back then I was working at one of the local wineries. So I was just like, I was the cellar supervisor there. So yeah, like making wine pretty much. So
yeah, right.
Who would have thought like COVID lockdown, everybody needs booze. So
a boom industry.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I was in that profession for 11 years. And then only recently I've just changed sort of careers, I guess.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether it was a physical job that you were doing, those long hours, long days, and then going for runs. That's a big effort.
Very much. I mean, like working in the winery, like, yeah, you're on your feet all day. Like I was clocking up easily like 10, 15 kilometers of walking a day. There's a lot of heavy lifting. So I was always like physically fit in that sense. A lot of stairs to go up and down, like to get to the tops of the wine tanks and things like that. So yeah, that and amongst all the running, it was definitely like good kind of like cross training, I guess. There's a lot of heavy lugging and lifting and core movements and back movements and things like that. So yeah.
How did the Auckland Marathon go for you?
It was really good, eh? Like, I mean, I remember I literally signed up for it after like 6 weeks of running, right? So that being like the ultimate goal, I was, like all in on it. I remember I like downloaded the like the training plan off the Auckland Marathon website and obviously tweaked it a bit because I didn't know what the hell like half marathon pace and marathon pace was all about. So I was just like, there was like this 14-week plan, printed it out, had it up on the wall in our bedroom, and it was just like each day, like tick off the session or each week. And yeah, got to the end of like the training for it, and I started getting some pretty consistent like longer runs in the lead up to it, which was really cool. And I had a goal of like 3 hours 45 for my first marathon, and I come in right on time. So it was cool. It was like a sufferfest for sure. It was like you hit that 30-kilometer mark and you're just absolutely busting. Yeah, it was like the full experience, like death afterwards, and couldn't walk for like a week and a half afterwards. It was like full on like first marathon experience for sure. I loved it.
How long after till you signed up for TUM 50?
Well, I don't think it was very long, eh? Like, I feel like it was only like a couple of weeks. Like, you know what? I guess once it gets in all the algorithms on your phone, it's like, I was fully immersed in it by then. And then it was like, it was that seemed like the next natural progression was like a 50K like trail type event. And considering like I did the majority of my training for the marathon, like in Riverhead, like, on your undulating gravel roads, I thought, it should be sweet. And then,
I mean, that was still less than a year after you started running. You're into a 50K.
Yeah.
So how was that?
Crazy, eh? Like, I mean, the again, like I just like knuckled down and like just kept running pretty much. Like there was no method to it at all. It was just like, sweet, like just go for a run. Because I was still like not really like, I mean, I loved running, but I wasn't like immersed in like, running like I am now. It was literally after that Tarawera 50 event that I was like then went deep diving on it. I remember, I think even you, Matt, came up to me afterwards, the Tum 50, and you're like, "Hey man, like, are you from Riverhead?" And I was like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Hey man, I'm Matt." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, hey man," like not knowing like who you were or anything like that. And then afterwards, I was like back in the hotel room, like keeping up to date with like the miler race and the 100K race, and I like come across like you guys on like the social media, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this is that guy that came and said hello to me afterwards. Like, what's going on here? He's like, yeah, he's pretty well known in the running community. This was pretty fancy. And then yeah, like from that day, it was just like full on like nerding out on running and like just yeah, like fully getting into it from that event. Yeah, and everything just kind of exploded from there, really.
Such an interesting progression, and I just want to reflect. But you talked about how you didn't run with anyone. You started running during COVID. You literally couldn't run with anyone.
Yeah.
And especially at the start when no one really, like looking back on it now, you go, probably could have got away with running with some people. Yeah. Maybe, in certain situations, in populations, but back then we were all terrified. Everyone was boiling their clothes and, doing all the stuff that we were told to do to keep ourselves okay. And there was that sense of when you were out there by yourself, and for me, and I guess Eugene as well, we didn't run together for good couple of months, and we'd run together every week, multiple times a week, and I remember that first time. But for you didn't even know any better. You're just out there, hooning around.
Yeah,
I saw you and Scott Bougen before this year's Tarawera Ultra Trail out in the forest. It was on Anzac Road, and you guys were just ripping it up, and you said to me, like I said, oh, how are you going? You're preparing for the miler, and what are your expectations? And you were so calm and composed, and you said, like you wanted to go, you definitely felt that you could go sub 19, and you ended up coming in 8th place, 18:44. What was your method to that in terms of, it's a big jump from like being hooked running, you've got an aptitude for it, you're enjoying the 50K, now you're nerding out, to being that guy who's like, I know I can go sub 19 at 100 miles?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess like, I went from the 50K, and then the next year was the 100K, which there was the year postponement in between. So I essentially had the 2 years to build for the 100K, and then obviously the miler was my 3-year like progression plan, which ended up, there was that extra year of training in there. So, but yeah, I mean, all along, like I just like kind of, I mean, my only motivation for these races and events is like to do the best that I can and to perform to the best of like my ability and pushing myself. I remember that conversation we had the week before the miler, and that was the first time when I said, oh yeah, I'm based on, my training, I should be like 18 and a half hours, will be a good day out for me. And you're like, shit, man, that'll put you up there. And that was like the first time that I ever really thought about that, because I don't train for these events to be like, oh yeah, I want to be top 10 or, I want to win. It's more about, sweet, like this is my level of training. Like this is where I'm at. I know if I have a good day out, like this is realistically where I'm going to be. Like, and even that, you have kind of your A goal and your more conservative, contingency times. But I always felt, 18 and a half without knowing the course was going to be definitely within my abilities. So I guess like in that respect, it was always just like, that's where I thought I'd be. And there's no real planning to kind of get top 10 or, anything like that. So it's all just kind of naturally where I know I'm capable of achieving, I guess.
And runners talk, right? Like runners, there's a bell curve, and Eugene and I hear a lot of talk, right? We hear a lot of projections. We hear a lot of people's and some people will tell us they're going to do X, and it doesn't quite work out.
Yeah.
And then you hear some, the conversation we overheard in Sydney Airport was one of the best I've ever, talking about they were going to negative split Kosciuszko. Hashtag didn't happen. But
Good times.
Good times. I just remember being struck by how it wasn't shit talk. It wasn't arrogant. It wasn't anything. It was just this really kind of casually self-assuredness. Has that always been there for you? That sense of just being quite sort of comfortable with, what you said, it seemed, and it happened to plan. Has that always been a thing for you? Again,
I'm super new to running, right? So I'm not I always like to be, I think I always like to be more on a conservative side than an aggressive side as well. So I think there's kind of that thing within us all that we don't like to big ourselves up or talk ourselves up or anything like that. So I think what I've come to realize over the last sort of year and a bit is I know if I've put in the work and I know, like I said, where my level is at, I'm just going to be honest with what I think is going to happen, and I can't control what happens outside of that, or what people think of that opinion. But I'm definitely always just gonna try and be realistic, right? It's not really in my nature to kind of I don't even know how to describe it, but I think I would just when I say these things, I think that's honestly what's going to happen. So
talk us through the training that you went through. I mean, you had a big build-up. Were you using a coach, or were you using a sort of a more generic program? What was your build-up?
I'm all just self-coached, no coach. I just look at what I think works best for me, and I just go about trying to be as consistent as possible. I think in my training, I know what I'm capable of in terms of time-wise per week. I know how many hours a week I have for training, and then I just make sure that time that I have, that it's quality. I would, I think my biggest training week for the miler was 115 kilometers. I would love to be doing way more than that, but I also don't need to, and I don't, necessarily have the time to be able to do that. So I think all, the last 2-3 years, all of my training for specific races has just been about quality of training, and just doing what's right for me. I figured out pretty early on that looking at other people, what other people doing, all that kind of comparison just does not work at all. So I've come to realize, just stay in your own lane, know how much time I've got to be able to work with, and make sure that's all quality. So my training plans are pretty simple for myself, but I know that, I put in the hard work, and it's paying off, I guess.
Sure is. But it's I just love that it's not naivety, because you know what you're doing, but you're not overcomplicating things.
Yeah, I think so. That's a good way to put it. For sure.
Yeah. In between the miler and the 50K was that 100K.
Yeah.
How did that go for you?
Yeah, again, that was pretty smooth sailing. I was kind of thinking about it I was thinking about it on the drive up to Whangarei for Kings. All the big races I've done have gone really well. What if this weekend is the weekend that it doesn't? And I was like, no, like you've prepared properly. And then I come to the realization that like all my sort of big races recently have gone well because I have like prepared well for them. And, I'm a big planner, so I think that's what works. But yeah, like the 100K, that was awesome. Again, it was like, I wasn't, trying to race it or anything crazy like that. That was my first sort of big-ish A to B race. Like I think I'd done like 15 laps at Riverhead relapse like the year before that. So I had the confidence to know that my body is capable of doing it, but it was the first sort of A to B race of that distance. So it was more about like enjoying it and getting through the event. But yeah, it all went really well, smooth sailing, no issues again. So again, I think it all just comes back to the planning and preparation for sure. Yeah.
What does that mean for you? We've talked about the training, but what else do you do that prepares you, that gets you ready for a race? What does preparation mean for you?
Oh, I think it's more just like the non-running stuff, like I'm a big like spreadsheet guy, like I'm a checklist guy. So, even if it's 2-3 weeks out from a race, like I'm creating these checklists that, come race week, I've got everything like already thought of, like written down and checked off and ready to go. So I think there's a lot of value in that. And then, yeah, same with just like, making sure all your equipment's sweet and yeah, just all the non-running stuff, if it's accommodation and like me and my wife or my boys with us, it's like organizing all that circus as well on top of it. So yeah, just all the non-running stuff. I think I'm really strong at preparing for sure.
Yeah. So you literally run spreadsheets, sorting everything out.
Yeah, I think you have to, right?
Awesome. I mean, some people don't, do they? But it's just if that's the way, yeah. But if that's the way you need to do it, it's a sensible way to do it because you're comfortable with it and everything's down there. You can check everything off, and just takes something. Just takes away another stress, doesn't it? So,
and it eliminates, forgetting something like super minor, but still super critical, whether it's like a charger or something like that, that's just going to create stress come, race day or the day before race day. Like if you've got everything written down and checked off, it's, absolutely. I like it that way.
The other thing that, I mean, as somebody who's run their entire life and I just have not nailed this, is nutrition. And how's that been for you as a late adapter to the sport who's done exceptionally well? How have you got used to being able to run and eat?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I don't do anything like special. It's just, good like bagel or something before race, and then like predominantly for these longer runs, it's just tailwind and snacks, the good old aid station snacks and things like that. I have tweaked things, obviously, a lot in the backyard format because it's a whole different sort of kettle of fish in the backyard format. But yeah, for all like the A to B races, it's just pretty like what I consider to be pretty standard, like carb intake, electrolyte intake, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, nothing too scientific, to be perfectly honest.
And it's obviously gone well for you because you've done well.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, notwithstanding the odd almost having to pee in front of a camera.
Yeah.
Every now and again. We've got to talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that whenever we need to.
We'll get to that. It's funny that you've got to almost... I look at runners who have success, and that's not to say that people who are absolutely precise with their diet or their nutrition, but there's always that chance that something could go completely wrong. And like it's worked 364 times, and the 365th time your body goes, yeah, I'm not up to that, eh? So having that ability to just kind of get after it at the aid station is useful, eh?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like I try all my nutrition and drink mixes and that in all my training. Like I'm thoroughly like practiced in the stuff that I use. But yeah, probably that's one of the secrets, is just trying heaps of stuff, right? Like some people kind of pick and stick. And then, yeah, like you say, you might come a cropper that one day out of the year for whatever reason. But yeah, like if you've got heaps of different backup options as well, like I think that's a good way to attack it, which I think I'm pretty good at. Like I'm trying a lot of stuff all the time, and it's always incorporated into the training. So I think, yeah, like you definitely got to keep practicing multiple things rather than just trying to stick to one thing.
I saw you the other morning out on the trails, and you looked like you'd been running for about 45 minutes, but you'd been out. I mean, it was what time? The sun was just coming up, and you were coming up the trail. I was coming down the trail, and you'd been out all night. You'd been out since like 11 o'clock the night before, so that was a good 7 or 8 hours you'd been up. How important is doing those big overnight runs for you, or is that a convenience thing?
Bit of both, to be honest. Like that was just, that was just another little backyard simulation, really, for Kings, and that was more about trialing equipment, like my layers, thermal gears, and trialing out the layers for if it was going to get really cold up in Whangarei. So I think that was about a 7.5, 8 hour little training session from about 11 o'clock Friday night right through to whatever time it was Saturday morning when we crossed paths. But that was also, like a convenience thing, like my weekends with my wife and boy. So, if I can get out and hammer an 8 hour session on overnight while they're asleep and be back home by like 8 a.m. to be able to hang out with them for the rest of the day, like that's, all good in my books too, and definitely all good in my wife's books. So yeah, those are always like little opportunities I'm looking for to try and maximize my family time on the weekend. Like it would be very easy for me just to go like wake up Saturday morning, 9 a.m. and roll in the forest for like 8 hours and be home 6 o'clock at night. But I don't really like to operate like that. I would much rather be up 4 a.m. in the forest, get a 3-4 hour long run in, and be home by 8 a.m. So yeah, that was a good combination of trialing out some things for Kings and also maximizing the weekend with the family.
Good for the sleep deprivation training too.
I'm a pretty terrible sleeper, so I've had years of not very good sleep. So that's probably one bonus that I've got in my back pocket.
Oh, so you can get into use that time fruitfully then.
Yeah, for sure. Might as well, eh?
Yeah. So let's talk about the backyards. When did you sort of first start hearing about them, and when did you decide, I want to have a crack at that?
Yeah, so that was probably just after that first Tarawera. Like I've done the last 4 Riverhead backyards. So yeah, I guess that takes us back to 2020. Because I think even through COVID, we still had all Riverhead backyards still ran.
One was postponed.
Yeah, one was postponed. So what are we now? 24. So 24, 23, 22. Yeah. So I've done 4 Riverhead backyards anyway, the last 4 years or whenever the last 4 have been, I've done those. And then the King's backyard up in Whangarei was my first one off-site.
First away game.
I just just in that deep dive in that early year after Tarawera 50, it was just like, oh, what's this backyard? I remember seeing one of those YouTube videos that was kind of that first satellite year that they did, like that Sean put together with the 15 of them that did it. Can't remember what it's called, but yeah, that was like part of the deep dive, and then that first, I guess the first year that they actually opened it up to everybody else, I was there. It was pretty cool.
So just circling back to that deep dive. I mean, that's some rabbit hole to go down, is the world of trail running. So where did you find information for somebody who didn't know running, who didn't know anyone? How did you find the world of running?
Social media, like it would have been like Instagram to start, but then like I remember just going to town on YouTube videos, like just type in like ultra running or something like that, and then all these cool videos will come up. There's a lot of cool content on like Tarawera, like Chasing Pounamu, all those kind of cool doco videos that I just watch like on repeat. All the cool little, people's documentaries that they've done of their own races at Tarawera, like even watching all those was really cool. And same with the backyard. There's that really cool, I think it's one of Gareth Morris's ones of the satellite team on backyard that documented those 15 guys that did it the first year. And then, from there always seems to be more and more content popping up on YouTube. But it's just anything like, like trail running related was like just going overtime on it.
Going
I was
deep.
loving it, eh?
Going deep.
Of all the rabbit holes you could have gone down during COVID, I mean, you went down a pretty good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it's quite funny, like working in the booze industry, it was, definitely the first year of running, I was still like drinking a lot, but just the natural kind of like life change that it took as well, like it's all of a sudden I'd like finish work and be like straight out the door to go for a run, whereas it used to be like get home and like smash back 6 or 10 beers after work, like it was just, it's crazy how, it just affected my life in like so many ways, but definitely for the positive. And like you say, like that COVID time for me was like an amazing time because it was still relatively normal for me and my wife because we were both working full time. We were very fortunate in the sense that we kept jobs and we didn't have any of the stresses that a lot of people were going through with job insecurities and things like that. So it was a very cool time, to be perfectly honest, because I had kind of been forced into running, and then from there it just exploded. So
could have been sourdough. You could have been a sourdough chef. You missed out. But what are some of those other ways that it's changed your life?
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess first and foremost the obvious health benefits, right? I mean, I look back 4 years ago, I was pretty much close to 100 kgs. I mean, I'm over 6 foot, so 100 kgs on me wasn't, crazy, but, I mean, I'd be lucky to be tipping the scales at 78, 80 kgs now. So, I'm a much lighter, fitter person, right? And then obviously just all the awesome, like mental and psychological benefits that, it's just like amazing for. I look at my life now and the person that I've become and still like striving to be a better person. But I just find like with that physical release, of running, it just creates such a more mentally clear mind. It's such a great de-stressor, all those awesome mental benefits that you can get from it. It's just like, it's changed my life pretty massively. It's helped me to like cope with things a lot better, like becoming parents for the first time. Me and my wife, like my boy is 2.5 years old now, so the last 2.5 years she's been a battle, but having that outlet of running has been massive.
Beautiful. That's awesome. I'm glad that was able to, that was a benefit that you could find, because life can be difficult, and if you can find a thing that helps you cope and just getting out there, and those days when you think of nothing, those days when you think of what you're dealing with, they're equally beneficial, aren't they?
Sure. And like I said, also like the last year has been like pretty cool, like just connecting with so many new runners, obviously like becoming really great mates with Scotty B and like all the people that he knows that, I've now know because when we all connect for a run and things like that, it's just been like, super cool just to, meet so many like-minded people. And, everyone in the running community, they're obviously pretty similar. Everyone's different, but, there's a lot of things, a lot of similarities, whether it's the reasons they got into running or why they run. Everyone kind of connects on deeper levels more than running, which I really enjoy too. Like I think you can express yourself like a lot easier, like if you're kind of like out in a group setting, like going for a run, like some of the chats as blokes we have is super powerful out there. And I think that's one thing that's like really cool is I don't think you would get that if you were kind of like just sitting around, like having some beers or like having coffee or something like that. I think when you're actually out there in the forest, you know, having some really strong conversations and connections with people, it's been really cool. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, I've been on runs with people who I barely know. And suddenly we're like super deep
Yeah.
into stuff that
Yeah.
I don't talk to people about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what
Yeah.
the hell? You know,
it kind of feels
but it's
like okay, right?
it
Yeah,
feels right. Absolutely. But like you say, if you stranger you met in a cafe, hell no. There's no way you're talking about that stuff. So it's healthy. Again, you know, it's that health, isn't it? It's great. And now, I mean, I guess we started off talking about the run club on Tuesday, which, you know, that you went to. So now you're part of helping other people find this thing that you've found. Tell us a bit about Run Club.
So I didn't know whether I could like name drop it right off the bat, but
Go hard.
yeah, Helensville Run Club, HLV Run Club. Like obviously me and Scotty, like we used to run. Well, we run together a lot, and we would always talk about, when we need to connect the community, you know, because there's a lot of runners around Helensville, a lot of the girls that we all follow each other on Strava and things like that, and for weeks we are just like, should we do it? Should we try it? You know, and then one week I was just like, stuff it, man. Like, I'm just going to do it, man. Like, let's just do it. Like, I created like the HLV Run Club group on Strava, and then, like started adding all the local runners and just deep diving on all the segments around Helensville, like seeing who was out there and just like shamelessly just like commenting on their activities, like the link to the run club that I created. And yeah, every Tuesday night now, 7:15 Helensville, we all get together and go for, it's normally about 6 to 8 kilometers. It's, you know, an hour 15, and it's all, just about that connection, right? Like, we don't care about pace, we don't care about distance. It's just about getting people together. First week it was me, Scotty, and 3 of the local girls, and then the next week it would climb to like 7, and then the next week it was like 12, and then the next week it was 15, and Tuesday night just gone was week 8. So we survived 2 months. Every week we've got, like, we're in the teens now, and we've got this awesome core of maybe like 10 to 12 people that are just there every week. And then the really cool thing about it is every week so far, so the 8 weeks that we've started, there's been at least 2 new members come every week. So every week we're still like getting new people coming in, and people, you know, obviously can't make it every week, but yeah. And honestly, like, it's like, you know, even like in sort of peak training before Kings, I was like, man, Tuesday night, this is like my favorite run of the week. That's nice and cruisy, but it's like connecting with new people and just, it's best. It's the best. I love it.
Kicking off in the 416, eh? I mean, that's incredible. It seems like there's been a bit of an explosion of running clubs, especially around our area. Like, I know
sure.
At Riverhead, there's now Riverhead Trail Runners, and there's the Early Bird Run crew that run out there. Yeah. And I feel a little bit of not a grouch, because I love it, but I feel like, you know, other people have got the idea, you know, like it's really cool that it was a place that not many people used to run it at Riverhead, and even less people would like, let's go to Helensville and run. That wasn't a thing, you know, unless you lived out there. And now it's this cool community. How good.
Yeah. And that's right. Like, we're coming into like the depths of winter as well, and like people are still just turning up, and it's become their routine too. And it's just like, you know, we have a bit of fun with it. Like, I take the attendance, you know, and we've got like the run streak. So, you know, like, if you don't turn up one week, you're back to the big donut. And I post every Monday morning just to make sure people are aware of who's attended the week before and what the run streaks are at. And yeah, it's cool, man. Like it's awesome, eh?
You're very similar in some ways to people. A lot of people discovered running during COVID. A lot of people discovered that sort of love of endurance, and a lot of people went on to do, marathon and then a smaller ultra marathon and then a bigger ultra marathon. Not a lot of people discovered that they could go as long as you can. When was the first inkling that even doing 100 miles, so like I'm at the position where next February, all going to plan, and I will have a spreadsheet, by the way, for this one. I'll be doing 106. If you could. Eugene, you send me yours too, and I will ignore them both. If you, you're looking at that distance, I'm like, that's a fair chunk of change. You went significantly over that, and then double that a couple of weeks ago. What was the first? Was there a tipping point? Was there a first time where you were thinking like, I can do this?
Yeah, I guess probably those first couple of backyards that I did, like in between the 3-year sort of 50, 100 miler plan that I had. I guess those first couple of backyards in Riverhead were the foundation to build the confidence to go far. Like obviously the backyard format, even though that the Riverhead course is always pretty brutal. Like I think the first year I did 11 laps, so 70k. The second year I did 15, so 100k. The third year I did 25, so just over the 100 miles. So I think using that format to kind of build, obviously, the physical and mental capability to do it, kind of helped this natural progression quite a lot. But again, it's weird. Like, it seems really crazy probably when you frame it up like that, but it's always just been kind of like a natural progression for me. Like I've never really thought about it like that. Like I just go out and try and test the limits, and without being ridiculous, like I'm always pretty realistic of what I think I can achieve. So yeah, it's kind of hard to really think about, what's the success to, this progression, or to go from doing 100k to 100 miler to whatever, 250Ks to 350Ks. Like it's never really been a big deal, like, which I know sounds stupid, but yeah, it is just kind of the way it is.
Well, again, you're just not overthinking it. I think that seems to be your superpower.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, like obviously there's probably some natural talent there, I guess. There's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of hard work, obviously. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm out there putting the work in for sure, which I guess gives me the confidence to be able to think I can do these things, right? But yeah, I guess there's just some natural ability down there that allows me to jump.
Don't get me wrong. When I say not overthinking it, I'm meaning that's complimentary. I mean, that's that when I say it's a superpower, it's like, that is amazing, because that's the problem with lots of runners, myself included, is that I just get in my own head and then suddenly I'm like off the rails. Whereas you seem to have that ability to be able to shut those things out and not overcomplicate it, not worry about how far am I going to go this time or whatever. Just do the job.
Yeah, and I think that kind of reflects in my training as well. Like I don't deep dive into like all these crazy like training fads, and once a week I'll do like some hill repeats, and then I get my long run in on the weekend, and anything in between that I just make it quality, like I'm not out there doing all these crazy split times and intervals and all the jargon that you see out there. I'm just like, I don't really, unless you're like a crazy elite athlete and being coached into doing that, like I don't think it's very beneficial at all to be trying to replicate that in your own training. But that's just me.
You must have some measure of how fit you are and stuff to be able to confidently say, I'm going to run the time that, you did for Tarawera so accurately.
Yeah.
And then to be able to pull it off. You must have a good gauge.
Yeah, I think so. And I guess like when you look at Riverhead, it's it does replicate like the Tarawera courses pretty well. Like, it's just undulating, flowy. There's a little bit of single trail if you want to get into there. If not, you stay on the forestry roads, and you can find vert in the forest if you need. It's not hilly by any means, but you can, in a 4 to 5 hour session, you can still easily find like 1,500 meters vert. So I guess when I look at like that in my training, and I'm consistent in my training on those longer runs, then I can kind of go, well, yeah, I can extrapolate that out to, predicting a 18 and a half 100-mile race at Tarawera. So I guess, yeah, I'm pretty good at judging these times because of my training and going off those stats. Yeah.
Sorry, just back on Kings, I took us off there, but you can't, I mean, you literally can't run as far as you did on your own. You need some people running with you, because as soon as they stop, it's all over.
Absolutely.
So, you had some quality assists there with you, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. And like that was the biggest thing I tried to push straight after finishing that 50-second lap was, like I only was able to do that because of Simon, right? And yeah, like it was cool for us. Like we had that plan like since Riverhead backyard back in April or March, whenever it was. I think he dipped out in like 32 hours at Riverhead, and I dipped out after 37 hours. And 4 days later, after Riverhead, Simon texts me. He's like, "Bro, you got to come up to Kings. We gotta do this properly this time." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, sign me up." And that's why we were bid 34 and 35, because we like signed up at the same time, and we both had clear goals of getting into that top 15 for the Sat Champs in October. And it just worked out that if we were going to do that, 48 hours was going to be a pretty good mark, and then we might as well push on through to the New Zealand course record of 51, and then whatever played out after that. So yeah, man, it was like a super cool, satisfying weekend to be able to put that together with Simon, because that was like definitely the plan.
How does it feel to have a New Zealand record?
Like, I mean, personally, like I don't really see it as the record, because like obviously Sam's done 101 over at Dead Cow. And then he's done, bigger at big, well, not as big, but, he's done 90 odd at bigs, and then 69 or 70 or whatever it was at Dead Cow a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it doesn't really sit that well with me that people were kind of like framing it as the New Zealand record. Like definitely it was cool that it was the highest amount of loops in like New Zealand, like on a New Zealand course. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But again, it was never about that. It was always about like trying to get on that New Zealand Sat Champs team for October, because like that's been like a 2-year goal for me. Like ever since seeing Sam and Scott do like the 45 and 46 at the Sat Champs out in Auckland 2 years ago. Like I remember, like obviously that was like still super young in my running days, so I was like, glued to that, going, man, how the hell are they doing like 45 hours? Like this is ridiculous. Like that was just like this mind-blowing thing that people could be out there running for that long, like whatever it was, like 300 kilometers or something. And I remember just sitting at the table that night watching that unfold, going, man, I want to be there, and I want that to be me in 2 years' time. And so whilst I've always had like the sort of Tarawera, the 3-year plan there, like the whole time burning away in the background was like, yeah, getting into Satellite Champs team in October. So yeah, to fall really short at Riverhead, like I kind of lost sight of a few things late in Riverhead, which was just like super gutting. Like it just, honestly, it haunted me like every day between Riverhead and Kings. So to be able to like pull that race out at Kings was just like really satisfying, to be able to kind of hopefully, I mean, obviously Crazy K's is in a couple of weeks, but hopefully something crazy doesn't happen there, and I can still make that top 15 and represent New Zealand at the Sat Champs in October will be, a pretty crazy ride for sure.
And I guess that's the thing, like, all power to Sam Harvey, right? All power to him. But the inverse is absolutely true. He did what he did because he was with a group of people. He doesn't get there on his own.
Yeah. And
you guys coming up now, so there was no one who was in a bull's roar of him for ages, right?
Yeah, not even close.
And I am grateful and hopeful, and this is again, with all respect to Sam, and hope as well, because it's going to push him. The tide's rising. 52 is now the thing, and then who knows what that's going to be like if there was Sam and someone else, what that's going to get up to, and then if that bound, it just pushes it up. It's super exciting.
Yeah, it's so awesome, like the progression of like the backyard format in the last 2 years. Like you look back 2 years ago, I think like 24, and you're home and hosed in that team, and now it's like coming up to Crazy K's in a couple of weeks. It's like 40, and you got to go much further. So, and it's super exciting again. Like again, hopefully get that chance in October to then be able to go sweet. Well, I've naturally progressed up and was feeling pretty fresh after 52 in Whangarei. So it's, it builds the confidence to go sweet. Like it can be anything because we will have the likes of Sam there, and we will have, 13, 14 other people who have progressed just as much in the last 2 years. And yeah, it's shaping up to going to be a really cool time should we get there in October.
And I feel inspired, man. I do. It's so lovely to speak with you, and it's refreshing. Your candor, your kind of, as Eugene said, that superpower of just stating something simply. Everything it can feel so overcomplicated in running at the moment. Hey, it's just this sort of, everything's, got 3 degrees of complication to it. It's incredible. So I'd like to just say thank you. It's, we've been doing this a fair old while, and to feel a sense of inspiration is
We've been doing this podcast longer than you've been running.
Yeah, we were 2 years we were 2 years deep when you started running. So
we're not the New Zealand team,
exactly.
Matt. What's going on?
I got to start again. And I'm going to bring it home, man, because it's you got stuff to do, and you've been so generous with the time. And KT, what has been your greatest run ever?
Ooh, shit! I been a fan of the show. I knew this was coming, so I've been trying to rack my brain today. In all honesty, like I know it's probably pretty cheesy, but I think like the one that does stick out is just that first run that I went on, like the very first one up Gucci, up along the ridgeline, just blowing ass up that gravel road up to the top there. Just like absolutely hating it, but loving it at the same time. I think that's, like for what it is, obviously it's not the furthest or the fastest I've ever run, but it's just like the one that I hold so dearly to me because, like I said, I have no idea why I went on that run, and but for what it's provided me with, it's changed my life. It's made me such a better human being. It's made me more open to like human connection and things like that. And that's got to be the greatest run, right? Like for sure.
Oh, mi haro e hoa. Ka nui te hiki a koe. That's awesome. That's so good. You've filled our bucket. Thank you so much. And we can't wait to see you keep on smashing it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Like I said, it's a bit weird being a big fan of the show, and I've watched a lot of amazing people that have inspired me as well through your show. So hopefully, I can be that to someone as well out there, and it just shows, you just got to make a start, and anything's possible from there. So thanks a lot. It's been awesome.
Something about Waimaukue in Helensville.
Yeah,
They're
I
built
think
different.
They are. And I was thinking too, lots of rural, small town New Zealand will have so many characters like Ant.
Absolutely.
Who just get out there and get on with it.
Yep.
Don't overcomplicate things. No. And as I said to him, that's I'm not saying it's in a naive way or anything. It's just like that's the attitude. Just get on with it.
Yep.
Why not?
Fantastic.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Yep.
Stop overthinking it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for being so open and sharing with us. And
I can't
really appreciate it.
Wait to see where he goes.
Oh yeah.
And I'm super excited about, like I said at the bottom there, how that sort of the tide is rising. And I really like that.
Absolutely.
Right, amazing. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio. You can email us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. Now, don't forget to sign up for the new podcast and newsletter.
Don't forget, as I mentioned, now is the time to send us your greatest run ever. We would love to hear from you with your greatest run ever. Send it in to us, dirtchurchradio@gmail.com.
Thanks to our sponsors, Further Faster, and our Substack subscribers and the DCR Aid Station crew. Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks when we have another great guest indeed, lined up. And also check out our DCR Aid Station next week.
Hey, Kona. Thanks, Rigby.